Namaskar. I'm going to talk about something which has a crucial importance in spirituality. The mind evolves in the process of clash. Clash? What is that? Like a clash of iron. Two swords, they come together, bam, and then they produce a spark. Similarly, in the psychic world, something like that happens. When the mind comes in touch with a greater idea. There are two opposite feelings. For example, the stinginess, the greediness, and then generosity. Feeling of abundance. Then they come and they clash. I want to first take care of myself. And then there is great idea. Maybe I should take care of others. In this process of psychic fight, psychic clash and cohesion, the dilation of the mind occurs. The mind becomes expanded. The mind may become expanded as a result of clash, or it may also become contracted as a result of clash. If somehow your mind clashes against a narrow idea, you are in the company with narrow-minded people. You are reading a bad quality of literature. You are watching the bad quality of movies, and so on and so on. So the mind imbibes that narrowness. Even though you were large-hearted, large-minded, but then again and again you come in touch that kind of expression of narrowness. So that large wave of your mind, the expanded wave of your mind, start to slowly narrow down. And then you yourself become like that. So that's why it is advised to avoid any sort of criticism. Because through criticism, normally you are not criticizing something good. So you're criticizing something which is narrow, something which is small. So the mind is coming in touch with the small idea, with the narrow idea. And therefore, the mind is degenerating. The mind is degenerating. Similarly, when you clash your mind, when you bump your mind against the great idea, the mind will expand. The best way to do that, it is of course to repeat the mantra. You create that. Like you repeat Bhavanam Kevalam. And the idea is infinite consciousness is all there is. All there is. Even me is also infinite consciousness. How is that? You try to imagine that, you try to grasp that. And that is infinite idea. So the mind will have to expand, it will have to grow. That is called the process of mental clash. The two swords hit each other. They produce the spark. They produce the energy. They produce, like my master, he has formulated, he has said, Sangharsh and Vikash. Sangharsh means, it means the fight, it means the struggle, it means there is, some two forces are fighting each other. And Vikash is luminance, is brilliance. As a result of that, the sparks come out and you become a luminous person. So there are few ways to maintain a good sort of clash. You have to clash always against a greater force, against a higher reality, not with the smallness. One way is to meditate. Another way is to maintain satsanga, the spiritual company. Be with the people of expanded thinking. Try to find such people. And be away from the small-minded people, with the narrow-minded people. If you are strong enough, you can be with any kind of people, and your wave will overcome, and it will create the flow of large-heartedness. But if you're not strong enough, try to avoid the people with toxicity, with people with narrowness, and try to search and try to be with the people of large mind. And another way, which is I just wanted to talk about today, is reading. In the past, there were several masters, spiritual masters, who have provided humanity with scriptures. When you read books created by the bona fide spiritual masters, your mind is just expanding. Your mind is just expanding. When I was 18 years old, 19 years old, I read just one book written by my guru. And it was like, by the end of it, I was crying, and I wanted to run out to the street and shout out loud and tell everyone, what a great master have come to this earth. There was this feeling. I was so overwhelmed. And I thought that that book, just after reading that book, my entire life can never be same again. And then after that experience, I got such a craving to read, to come in touch with those ideas. Because when I read, and those ideas, they just, they start to sing within me, they play within me. I read, and they're there. They're dancing within me, the words, the ideas. And it's not like I'm thinking all the time about it. I'm going out, I'm going about my life. But it's like, like you install some software and it is being unarchived there within. It is setting up, it is taking it is taking care of all the hands, the drivers, the legs, everything. And slowly, little by little, changes everything of yours. So I got a tremendous yearning, tremendous longing to read. And there was no books. There was no books. I was in Russia. There was hardly one book translated. One book. And then I saw in my friend's house 2 books. Beautiful books by my master. It was called Discourses on Tantra, Part 1 and Part 2. And they were beautifully made with a beautiful jantra as a cover. It was looking very mystical. And I was just like, I want to read that. I want to read so much. And then, but I didn't know English. So I decided I must learn English to read those 2 books. And then I begged my friend, please give me these books. Give me, I need them. So I sat in my home there was no computers, there were no Google Translator, nothing. There were just dictionary like this as a paper. So I would find the word and I would read and I would kind of sentence by sentence compose something. And then okay, now I understand. So sentence by sentence, I have digested that book. And it's like, I really felt my entire life has changed. I thought that those who read this kind of books, they become saints. It's impossible to remain sane after reading those books. And since that, I read many books. They give me food. The intellectual stamina, these wide ideas, the vast ideas, I think about them. Sometimes I don't understand. And when I don't understand, it's even better. Because it intrigues me. It haunts me. and I want to crack it, and I want to understand. And when I come to understand, I feel so much joy within. For me, it is a kind of spiritual practice. It is, and I would say it is a foundation of spiritual practice. Reading the books of the bona fide spiritual master. I just want to share that there is such master. He's my guru. And below this video there is one link. You can go and you can explore. We put some books there, so you can get those books and you can read and you can judge for yourself. For me it is very, I find that spiritual paths is overcoming the stagnation, overcoming the staticity on all levels. First level is physical, and you feel a lot of progress when you start practicing different prescriptions in spirituality. For example, you change the diet, and physically you move away from the stagnation force towards the force of sentience. And physically you become more agile, you become more alive, you become more fresh. But that's not all. There is much greater staticity in the mind than in the body even. The mind is structured. It has like a box thinking. And the mind needs constantly hammered, because you have known, you have created a certain understanding of life, of things, and it is like, it is set, it is static understanding. But the mind requires flow. Flow means breaking old, building new. You have to be in the flow of breaking and making. If you're not breaking and making, you're not in the flow. If you feel that I understood all there is to understand, it means you have become stagnant and you have become boring. There is no spark. You have become boring for yourself, you have become boring for others. I find when the people, they remain in the state of the mental flow, means they're breaking. What I understood yesterday is not relevant anymore. Today there is some upgrade. Like in the science, the Newtonian understanding. Okay, there is, the Newton laws. And then the quantum physics upgrades. You have to understand that, okay, Newtonian physics works, but there are some other other cases where those laws don't work. And you constantly upgrade and expand the view of the world. That is kind of scientific endeavor. And for that you need to rub your mind against the ideas, spiritual ideas. And spiritual ideas so subtle, so sublime. It takes years to contemplate them. And I find it is very fantastic. When you are in that, people feel you are alive. One time we were with my friend. He is also a meditation teacher. I was actually his kind of padawan. I was his assistant. And we were in the bus. We were going to do some service. And two preachers came to us. And they started to preach the Bible. And I was very interested to know what's there in the Bible. And then I started to ask questions. And I found these people they don't have understanding actually. How they do? You ask something, he will run the Google search in the mind. Quote number 3 point such and such, the chapter this, and the point this. And then he will just give you that one. And at some point I started to become frustrated. I just wanted to say, hello, anybody home? Is there anybody alive? Can I talk not to the answering machine, but to a human being, I realized that I don't want that kind of spirituality. It's completely dead. It's completely dead. There is no flow of understanding. There is no this wealth of living mind. But when you make it a practice, it is called svadhyaya. Svadhyaya means swa means self, adhyayanam means reading. Self-reading and thinking. You read a little bit and then you think a lot. Again, you read a little bit and then you think a lot. And then you constantly rub your mind against the great ideas. And then it creates a living spirituality within yourself. You can imagine the books, that there are many good books. The author has spent maybe 20, 30, 40 years to arrive to that understanding. And he put it in the book. And you read that book. Just in 5 hours of reading, you are getting that priceless experience of that person. Of course, you are not getting everything, but something you are getting. And now you can imagine a spiritual master, the person of truly cosmic mind. When he talks out of that infinite consciousness, that flow just pours, and you read that, how rich are you going to become? How beautiful is that? That flow is so priceless. So I just want to encourage you to read spiritual books. Read spiritual books. Write in the comments. Maybe you can share what is your favorite books. I have collected my most favorite books in that link that I suggested. You follow that link, you will find our recommendations of the Meditation Steps project. What we read and what we love to read. Thank you very much. Namaskar.